There's a woman named Sarah. She earns $78,000 a year. Not bad, comfortable even. But every Sunday night, she opens her banking app and feels that familiar knot in her stomach. Her savings account shows $340. Her credit card balance shows $4,800. And she has no idea where her money actually went. Here's the part that explains everything. Sarah spent 47 minutes on Instagram that morning. She saw a vacation in Bali, a new handbag, a kitchen renovation, a perfectly curated morning routine in a spotless apartment. And by noon, she had added 3 things to her cart. Not because she needed them, because they looked like the life she was supposed to have. This isn't a story about one woman. According to a 2025 Empower survey, 58% of Americans admit that social media makes them feel pressure to spend money they don't have. A separate study from Credit Karma found that millennials are spending an average of $240 per month on purchases directly influenced by social media. That's $2,880 a year. Gone. Not to experiences, not to investments, to the performance of a lifestyle. And here's the part nobody talks about. The people creating that content, many of them are just as broke as the people watching it. Let's talk about what's actually happening inside your brain when you scroll. Social media platforms are not neutral. They are engineered for one specific outcome: to keep you watching. And the most powerful way to do that is to trigger a very old, very human instinct called social comparison. Psychologist Leon Festinger first described this in 1954. Humans instinctively evaluate themselves by comparing to others. It's how we've always measured status, safety, and belonging. For most of human history, your comparison group was maybe 150 people, your village, your street, the people you actually knew. Today, your comparison group is 4 billion people. You're comparing your Tuesday morning to someone's most impressive moment, carefully lit, carefully filtered, carefully selected from 200 photos taken just to get that one. And your brain doesn't know the difference. Every scroll triggers a small hit of inadequacy. Every tap triggers a subtle message, you're not there yet. Every algorithm-delivered highlight reel tells you the same story. Your life needs upgrading. The product being sold isn't the handbag, it's the identity the handbag promises. This is where it starts costing you real money. Behavioral economists call it aspirational purchasing. You don't buy the thing because you need it. You buy it because it temporarily closes the gap between who you are and who you think you should be. The gym set that signals a healthy lifestyle. The kitchen gadget that signals a home cook who has it together. The hotel lobby photo that signals someone whose life is exactly where it should be. Each purchase feels like progress. None of it actually is. According to research from the Journal of Consumer Psychology, aspirational purchases provide a short-term spike in self-perception that fades within days. The emotional return drops to 0. But the financial cost stays on your credit card statement for months. Here's what that looks like in real numbers. The average American spends $433 per month on impulse purchases, according to a 2025 Slick Deals survey. That's $5,196 annually. Over a decade, that's $51,960 gone. If that same $433 monthly had been invested in a simple index fund at historical average returns, after 20 years, it becomes approximately $270,000. You didn't just buy things you didn't need. You bought them instead of your future. The trap deepens because of something researchers call the audience effect. When you buy something visible, a car, a watch, a vacation, you're not just buying it for yourself, you're buying it for an imagined audience. We spend money to tell a story. The problem is that most people in that imaginary audience aren't paying attention, and the ones who are, they're mostly comparing themselves to you while planning their own next purchase. Thomas Stanley spent decades researching actual millionaires in America. His findings were jarring. The people with real wealth don't look wealthy. 80% of millionaires are first-generation affluent. They built everything themselves. Half of them have lived in the same house for more than 20 years. The most common car among American millionaires? Toyota. Number 2? Honda. Meanwhile, according to Experian data, 8% of people earning under $100,000 own luxury vehicles. One group looks wealthy. The other group actually is wealthy. These are rarely the same people. Social media has made this inversion worse because it's made visibility cheap. In the past, only genuinely wealthy people could project wealthy lifestyles. The cost of entry was real. Today, a $500 outfit and a 2-night Airbnb can produce 6 months of content that signals unlimited financial ease. The signals have been decoupled from the reality, and yet people respond to the signals as if they were real. They take on debt to keep pace with performances. They stretch their budgets to match curated fictions. They feel inadequate comparing their actual life to someone else's highlight reel, not understanding that behind that reel is often a maxed-out credit card and a very convincing filter. According to a 2025 Goldman Sachs report, social comparison was explicitly cited as a primary driver of living paycheck to paycheck among high-income earners. People earning $200,000, $300,000, even $500,000 described feeling financially inadequate because they were measuring themselves against the top 1% of visible consumption, most of which is either financed or fabricated. The comparison never ends because the feed never ends. So what does deliberately opting out actually look like? It starts with understanding the difference between spending that serves your life and spending that performs your life. Spending that serves your life, a mattress that improves your sleep, a course that builds a marketable skill, food you actually enjoy eating. Spending that performs your life, the $400 sneakers that signal taste, the restaurant you chose because it photographs well, the vacation you booked because someone else posted a better one. The first category improves how you live. The second category manages how you appear. Research consistently shows that beyond a baseline of genuine comfort, additional consumption adds almost nothing to reported happiness. The hedonic treadmill always adjusts. The new thing becomes normal. The upgraded lifestyle becomes the baseline, and the next comparison target is already waiting in your feed. The practical shift is straightforward, but it requires honesty. Before any non-essential purchase, ask one question. Am I buying this for my life or for an audience that doesn't exist? Most of the time, you already know the answer. The financial math of this decision compounds over decades in ways that are almost impossible to overstate. Someone earning $75,000 who redirects just $300 per month away from appearance-driven spending and into investments accumulates approximately $200,000 over 20 years at historical returns. That's the cost of keeping up with the feed. That's also, depending on where you live, the difference between retiring at 60 or working until 70. The people who build real financial security almost universally share one behavior. They ignore the performance. They drive the Honda. They live in the modest house. They don't broadcast their wealth because they're too busy building it. They opted out of the comparison game, and that decision quietly compounded into freedom. Here's what nobody tells you about the way out. It doesn't require deprivation. It requires clarity. Clarity about what you actually value versus what the algorithm has convinced you to value. Clarity about who your spending is actually for. Clarity about the difference between a life that looks good on screen and a life that feels good to live. The woman who spends $240 a month on social media-driven purchases isn't failing at willpower. She's being targeted by systems designed by some of the most sophisticated engineers in history. optimized around her specific emotional vulnerabilities, updated daily based on what keeps her scrolling and spending. Awareness is the only real defense. When you see the mechanism clearly, it loses most of its power. The feed is a store. Every post is a product placement. Every comparison is an invitation to feel inadequate enough to buy something. You don't have to accept the invitation. The 2011 Honda Civic doesn't look impressive. The modest apartment doesn't photograph well. The index fund balance isn't content. But none of those things were ever meant to be seen. They were meant to be kept. And in 20 years, the person who kept them will have something no amount of social media validation can provide: the freedom to live entirely on their own terms. That's not something you can perform. That's something you build, quietly, consistently, one opted-out purchase at a time.